Hello students, welcome to our today's session. So in our previous session, we had seen what is sharp single index model. So moving on, after Markowitz and William Sharp, we have something called as the CAPM theory. I hope you guys are now very much familiar with what is meant by CAPM, Capital Asset Pricing Model, correct? So the CAPM has a formula which is RF plus beta into RM minus RF. RF is risk-free rate of return, correct? What are risk-free assets? Risk-free assets are those assets like your government treasury bonds, which afford a lower return compared to other stocks in the share market. But however, the risk of default is zero. You can, it's like a guaranteed return as well as guaranteed principal repayment. That is the reason we call them as risk-free rate or risk-free assets. So, and then moving on, what is beta? Beta is nothing but the volatility of a particular stock or share with respect to the market. If the if the share market rises by 1%, what is the corresponding change on the particular security? That is what is meant by beta, correct? It measures the volatility multiplied by the risk premium. What is risk premium? Risk premium is like, since we are not choosing particular risk-free rate of risk-free assets. For example, we are not choosing government bonds, we are not choosing treasury bonds, we are choosing a share of a particular company, correct? So that it's like we are taking risk. If we had chosen any government bond, we wouldn't have taken any sort of risk. The rate of return as well as the principal repayment would have been absolute, correct? They would have paid you no matter what. But however, since you are choosing the stock of a particular company, there is risk of default. Maybe in as we know, dividend payment is not very much compulsory. It depends on what's the profit the company is earning. Correct? It dividend depends on various factors like the profit earned, the dividend payout ratio, the reserves and surplus, various other things. Correct? So this particular risk, what we are taking, the difference is risk, market risk minus risk-free rate of return multiplied by beta, and then we are adding that to our risk-free rate of return. This is the formula of CAPM theory, correct? I hope, while we look at the formula itself, we are very much clear that it is a linear equation, RF plus beta into RM minus RF. This is a linear equation. This linear equation slopes upward. We'll study that in later points or parts of this module. Right. The required rate of return is a set having a linear equation, correct? This is a linear equation, and with assets beta value, that is undiversifiable or systematic risk. This is a systematic risk. RM is a systematic, assets beta value is a systematic risk. You cannot reduce that. Right. So these are the assumptions of CAPM approach. Please be very much careful when you are writing assumptions and all. They might ask you in your exams. An individual seller or buyer cannot affect the price of a stock. Correct. Uh, okay. For example, I am a shareholder of Reliance Group. I cannot affect the share price. I cannot sell it at higher price or buy it at higher price. I cannot make any impact on the market. Investors make their decisions only on the basis of expected returns, standard deviations, and covariance of all pairs of securities. So, how do investors decide? They take the expected returns, they analyze the risk or standard deviation and covariance of the securities. We have seen why covariance is important. Investors are assumed to have homogeneous expectations during decision making period. So all of us have a similar expectation, right? We want return to be high and risk to be less. The investor can lend or borrow any amount of funds at risk less rate of return. So whatever the risk-free rate of interest, for example, if government securities are are actually giving you 4% return, investor can also borrow any amount of funds at 4%. Assets are infinitely divisible, all right. There is no transaction cost, okay. There is no personal income tax. Unlimited quantum of short sales is allowed, right? You can sell how much ever uh, securities you want. Lending and borrowing. It is assumed that the investors could borrow or lend any amount of money at riskless rate of interest. Portfolio return, the proportion of funds invested in risk-free assets, proportion of funds invested in risky assets. Okay, okay, all right. Okay, go through this formula. Okay, what is market portfolio? Market portfolio means all the stocks in the market, correct? Each asset is held in proportion to its market value to the total value of all the risky assets. What is proportion? The market value of a particular stock divided by the risky assets, right? Okay, this is CML line. I want to spend some time here, right? Okay, all the graphs will definitely have two axes, correct? One is x-axis, one is y-axis. First, we'll see what is a capital market line, right? Capital market line is a line which is actually a linear equation. This is a form of linear equation which in which the x-axis is the standard deviation of the portfolio, right? Standard deviation, that is risk. On x-axis we have plotted risk, on y-axis we have plotted return. So as per our basic discussion or basic understanding, it is very much clear that if risk increases, return should also increase, correct? So that is the reason I have plotted a linear equation. How does this look? Okay, before that, we have started the capital market line from RF. Why? Because even if the standard deviation is zero, correct? At this point also, the risk is zero, but still you are able to earn some amount of returns. Example, your treasury bond. Treasury bond has zero risk, but they afford you some nominal amount of return. As we increase the risk, the return should also increase, correct? So this is the region where we have plotted our stocks. I have actually plotted these regions, various combination of risk and return. This point which actually meets the CML is the point at which you can invest. If there is a stock which has, yes, I have called this tangible point as S. This is a point wherein your risk and return of a particular portfolio stock or combination of stocks are meeting your capital market line. This point is the optimal point. This is the optimal point and you can invest in S, stock S, right? I've explained it. The portfolio along with the path RFS is called lending portfolio. That is, some money is invested in riskless asset. Okay. If it crosses the point S, it becomes borrowing portfolio. Money is borrowed and invested in risky asset. All right. A straight line is called CML. CML represents linear relationship between required rate of return for efficient portfolios and their standard deviation. Okay. So this is the formula for your CML, capital market line. RF plus RM minus RF, that is the risk return premium, risk premium. That I mean, it's like the market risk minus RF is something like the extra risk what you are taking. Correct? RF is the risk-free rate of return. RM is market risk, and standard deviation M is market portfolios risk or standard deviation. Right. Next, we have something called a security market line. Capital market line does not show risk return trade-off for other portfolios and individual securities. So we have seen it's like it shows only for the single portfolio. It doesn't consider other portfolios or individual securities. Under security market line, we can calculate that. Under capital market line, we actually plot a particular portfolio or a particular stock. Standard deviation includes the systematic and unsystematic risk. While in capital market line, it only takes into consideration your systematic risk. Unsystematic risk can be diversified and it is not related to the market. Alright. Systematic risk could be measured by beta. This is one very important point. Beta is nothing but volatility of returns. That is systematic risk. Beta analysis is useful for individual securities and portfolios, whether efficient or not. Okay. So this is our securities market line. So the one major difference is that in x-axis we have considered beta, correct? There we had considered standard deviation. So as usual, RP, the returns of portfolio lies here, and the securities market line starts from RF, risk-free rate of return. Here we have plotted, I mean, for one beta, that is one change, 1% change in the uh, risk will have a implication on your returns earned, right. So if we plot all the securities in securities market line with respect to their betas, it is advisable, or it is it's like that you can derive that all those securities or portfolios which are lying above the securities market line you can invest in, which are underrated. For this, for example, at 0.9 beta or volatility in return, you are earning A as well as R. Three returns lie for the same beta. The risk is same, but the returns are increasing. So you need to choose a point which has higher return for lower beta, right? So whatever lies on SML is optimum. Above that you can invest, right? All those points which are above your SML, you can make your investment. Evaluation of securities with securities market line. The stocks above SML yield higher return for the same level of risk. They are underpriced compared to their beta value. For the risk what they are mentioned, correct? For example, here we saw 0.9. For the same thing, these things are underrated. So it is advisable that you purchase those stocks. So this is empirical test of the CAPM approach. The studies generally showed a significant positive relationship between expected return and systematic risk. Correct? If return increases, risk also increases. But the slope of relationship is usually less than that of predicted by CAPM. The slope, whatever we saw, the degree of inclination, it is actually less than that of what we predict in CAPM. That is RF plus beta into RM minus RF. Okay. The risk and return relationship appear to be linear, correct? Empirical studies give no evidence of significant curvature in risk or return relationship. This is because that is a linear equation. The CAPM theory implies that unsystematic risk is not relevant, but unsystematic and systematic risk are positively related to security return. If security return increases, the systematic as well as unsystematic risk increase, correct? There is a positive relationship between the both. The ambiguity of market portfolio leaves the CAPM untestable. The changes of market. Ambiguity is nothing but the volatility. Okay, if the CAPM were completely valid, it should apply to all financial assets including bonds. Correct. Present validity of CAPM. CAPM provides basic concepts which is truly of fundamental value. CAPM has been useful in selection of securities and portfolios, right? Given the estimate of risk-free rate of return, the beta of the firm, stock and required market rate of return, one can find out expected returns for the firm security. So yeah, that's very much obvious because we have got the formulas. Okay, there is something called as APT model which we'll see in the next session.